welcome back to The Way of the Wandering Wizard. I am, as always, Robert Andrew Meredith Kennedy, and I am a pure and open channel for the finest vibrations of divine love and light, made manifest here in service to Gaia and those who travel with her. Though most folks call me Bob the Wizard, or Gandalf Bob the Wise. And hopefully in the future, aren't you that weird bloke off of YouTube? We live in hope. Please subscribe. Hey, even wizards are needy. Anyway, in my last videoette, I was waxing lyrical about recovery through roleplay and sharing some of my experiences and some of how I feel and know that role-playing in hostile environments, in accident exercises, first aid casualty work, all of this has really helped me to come to terms with my accident, to work through it, and to make really good use of my own experiences, along with many of my fellow role players. It's always been the purpose of those that have been through an experience to try and pass on that experience to those who hopefully will never have to face it. The degree of being prepared. What's a good scouting way? In that last little uttering, I introduced this, but I forgot to tell you what the book was called. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. A fine read. Said I found it to be instrumental in gaining a deeper understanding of myself and how I've been as I've carried trauma post-2012. In my last little video I mentioned it, the physical body keeps the score. The reason for this, the reason that bodies remember trauma is basic survival. It's inherent within the evolution of the bodies that we all live in. Simple as that. There are plenty of great works that I've read for years that have explained to me the primal body that's evolved on this planet that now exists in a very different world. And the fact that it still reacts to that. I've read about this. There are huge texts, many works explaining this. The purpose of this little video is to share my and those around me's experience that, yeah, that's absolutely truth. Absolute truth. My first experience, though I didn't notice it at the time, because I was very new to the field, was of an older body carrying a trauma. Now, as he's long retired, and he was, let's just say, one of the more senior delegates that I've ever worked with. But very early on in my GT career, I was called as part of the standard ambush hostage situations that were running at the time to take control of a vehicle and to extract under gunfire and with a blank firing weapon the occupants of the car and capture them. Unbeknown to me, the aged gentleman in the car had, back in his youth, been abducted by Chechen rebels. I laugh, because he did laugh afterwards. He, like many of us, had prepared himself for life. He'd lived these experiences. He knew what he had been through. He knew that he was in training and he was there. What am I going to do if? What am I going to do if? I do it all the time. And the difference with it is that when you're in those situations, all of that mind is within a body, and that body can quite literally, as is explained in many of these texts, go, fair enough, and it just takes over. It will react. It's hardwired into our survival. Overcoming that is pretty much the journey of PTSD, well, certainly for me and for many, in realising where the trauma came from and stepping away from it. If it triggers, it's not the event, it's just reminding us of the event. This is a slow process. It takes time to unwind the body. But part of the training was learning techniques anyway. Back to the gentleman concerned, I hauled him out the car and he literally absolutely panicked. He didn't run, didn't freeze, turned to jelly. Literally his legs went underneath him. Frog marched the gentleman into the arms of, you'd expect in these training scenarios, somebody who understood what he was going through and was able to help him maintain his balance, get back in the room and work through where he'd triggered. He came up afterwards, shook my hands and stuff and said he was, exact as I shared, I was so ready for this. He'd seen faces, but an unfamiliar face that stepped into the team for that purpose had absolutely shocked him, but it brought it up. And that was the first time that I ever saw that. Of course there are other triggers, and that's part and parcel of why we put ourselves back through this. Are we fit to deploy? Clearly, post-accident, no. That's the reason why I train. I'm too old, too ancient and too wise to go playing in battlegrounds again. Never thought I'd hear myself say that. Just simulated ones these days. So there was an experience. I said once I'd seen it once, it's part of the training and it's common, but it can happen. The purpose of why we put ourselves back in when we've been through that experience too. Am I fit? Anyone that's been through trauma, members of the emergency services before they return to duty, members of the armed forces before they return to duty, anyone that's been in these high intense situations, doctors, nurses, teachers, these are highly stressed situations that we all exist in these days. Working together, if we know ourselves, we are able to heal and move through this. It's been the purpose of all of our journey, certainly mine. Now, does my body keep the score? Yes. Do I have control of it most of the time? Yes. Does it do things that I don't want it to do? Not always. A jest. I'd like to share with you a little story that happened relatively recently to me. I have, as explained, or shared, been through I don't know how many road traffic accidents where I've relived similar experiences. And I thought I had it absolutely under control. I really did. And I did. Up until when I was presented with a very familiar traffic accident scenario involving people that I've worked with for years. And on looking towards the vehicle, I saw an unfamiliar driver. Let's say no more. The vehicle revved, and I quickly reverted back to original pre-accident Bobski. I sprung like a leaping tiger onto the bonnet of the car. And I'll be honest, in that moment, I did have to have a little bit of a think, because a part of me went, we have been here before. And the only way I can describe it was a ripple of, oh God, it's happened again. Don't be stupid. This is a black car. You're fine. Stand up. Because I couldn't stand up in my accident. So I stood up, quite tall on the bonnet of a car. And apparently, according to eyewitnesses, members of the team, I incandescently lost my shit at full volume. Let the occupants of the vehicle know in no uncertain terms that I was rather miffed. May have banged on the roof a number of times, dislodging various bits of internal lights, and then proceeded to go across the room like some kind of vengeful biker to arrive at the back of the vehicle and quite literally roared out my frustration, my displeasure of arriving on their bonnet again. Did that help me get some stuff out of my system? Oh yeah, I've been tapping into that for a long time. It allows me energy to work with. That helps me. It's not, are you holding the rage back? It's something that I can draw on and experience. That's what all actors, role players do. Anyone with an imagination draws on a core of experience. But in that one instant, when chatting it through, as you would afterwards, well, everyone went, well, that was pretty impressive. One of my most oldest and wisest evil twin brothers just turned around and went, yeah, mate, but why didn't you just say stop and get out? It was an exercise. And in that moment, I had my little epiphany. It didn't occur to me. Well, it might have occurred to part of me, but in that moment, my body reacted. Did standing on the roof of that vehicle, raging, help me? Yeah. Did the ability to get out and quite literally plug people into an accident scenario, you do this, you do that, you do this, something that part of me desperately wanted in 2012 when I was lying for real on the road? Oh yes. Did that scenario, unplanned, warned for but unplanned, give me the ability to quite literally clear that part of my life by being able to actually experience what it would have been like to have sprung out of my body and ordered people around, get me fixed, get that person to hospital, do this, do that. Really? Now that was a gift from the universe, from whatever, from experience, from a resonance, I don't know. But I count myself blessed to have been working within a team. Now it said there was no, apart from the fact that I really did get quite shouty, and normally I'm very shouty but very controlled shouty. Yes, did it help me learn something about myself? Have we now worked through that? Yes, of course. Why is that? This is what these kind of training examples or experiences are for. Something comes up. Where does it root from? Where does it come from? Do you know it? Can you manage that process? Well, clearly I do, because the reason I didn't record anything yesterday is because I lost my voice, because I was playing an angry man. And there's a difference between being an angry man and playing an angry man. But that is one for my 2022 explosion. One for the future. As always, take care, go well, and blessed be. Thank you for listening to the witterings and wanderings of a wise old wizard who has remembered it's not given his teaching point. The fact that the body keeps the score emotionally, mentally and physically is something that is now very, very prevalent. Not only to me, not only to these works, but in our understanding of what we go through as a species. The fact that we've recently had a huge common experience, which I hesitate to cover, has brought a lot of stuff up for a lot of folk. Was it what it was intended to be? Is it all? I don't know. I'm just a wizard. Yeah? But it's clear from just my experiences of late that these are turbulent times. These experiences of late unified us. Now I've been around. I'll let the wizard speak just for a minute. Parts of me can remember being around for a very long time as a dint of an experience in 2012, an unlocking of a part of my consciousness. And I promise you this, speaking as an old, ancient, wise, shamanic traveller, at no point in my history have I ever seen that many people unified through one common experience, which was lockdown. In all that experience.